We're just waiting for our recording secretary to finish his paperwork.
Trying to check for accuracy so I don't get heckled. I know, just less heckling, you know.
Oh, that's your pen. I would just tell you that Keith has gone to big time because I just found a pen sitting in front of me and I said, "Where'd this pen come from?" And I looked and it has his name on it. So that must be big time.
Because people take it. Yeah. It was a gift from my staff.
Good morning, everyone. Okay, you ready, Keith?
Sure.
Sue, are you ready? Because you're gonna need the proxies. So Keith, would you do roll call, please?
Good morning, everybody. Ready for roll call. Ready, Sue? 100%.
Okay, Acadia 1,
Present by proxy. Oh, we're flipping around there, Sue. Hold on. Acadia. Okay, let's go. Andover A. You say absent.
oh, okay,
Or am I saying
absent, all right, absent,
Andover B. Absent.
absent,
Andover C. Absent.
Absent.
I'll do that. Andover E. Absent. Andover F. We're gonna go here. Andover D's here. If they're here,
Okay,
we don't
and-
call 'em.
present by proxy,
Andover G.
present by proxy,
Andover H.
present by proxy,
Andover I.
present by proxy,
Bedford A is absent. Bedford B.
present by proxy,
Bedford C.
present by proxy,
Bedford D is absent. Bedford F.
present by proxy,
Bedford H.
present by proxy,
Brookfield.
present by proxy,
Cambridge A.
present by proxy,
Cambridge C is absent. Cambridge E absent. Cambridge F is absent. Cambridge H absent. Cambridge I is absent. Cambridge K.
present by proxy,
Cambridge L. Yeah.
present by proxy,
Cambridge M.
present by proxy,
Canton Court D is absent. Devonshire.
present by proxy,
Dorchester A.
present by proxy,
Dorchester B.
present by proxy,
Dorchester D.
present by proxy,
Edinburgh.
present by proxy,
Fairfield B.
present by proxy,
Fairfield C is absent. Fairfield D.
present by proxy,
Fairfield E.
present by proxy,
Fairfield F is absent. Fairfield H.
present by proxy,
Gloucester B.
present by proxy,
Gloucester C is absent. Gloucester D.
present by proxy,
Gloucester E.
present by proxy,
Gloucester G is absent. Gloucester H.
present by proxy,
Gloucester J.
present by proxy,
Wait a minute. Could we have less conversation on the floor, please?
Gloucester K is absent. Gloucester L.
present by proxy,
Gloucester M.
present by proxy,
Gloucester N.
present by proxy,
Highgate A is absent. Highgate E is absent. Highgate F.
present by proxy,
Highgate 3. That's 3 there.
okay, present by proxy. Oh,
Yeah, we were going to. Yeah, if you don't say your name, we count you. No. Highgate A is absent. Highgate E is absent. So we have Highgate 3 is present by proxy. Highgate 4.
present by proxy,
Huntington is absent. Inverness.
present by proxy,
Knowles 1.
present by proxy,
Knowles 2.
present by proxy,
Knowles 3.
present by proxy,
Lancaster 1.
present by proxy,
Lancaster 2.
present by proxy,
Lancaster 3.
present by proxy,
Lyndhurst is absent. Manchester 1.
present by proxy,
Manchester 3.
present by proxy,
Manchester 4.
present by proxy,
Maplewood. Yeah, we've got you logged in. Maplewood was
present by proxy,
Nantucket 3 is absent. Oxford 1.
present by proxy,
Quail Pass is absent. Radisson 2.
present by proxy,
Richmond.
present by proxy,
Tremont 2.
present by proxy,
And Yorkshire.
present by proxy.
Alrighty, Mr. President, you have 3,684 units represented for a total of 84.5%, establishing a quorum. With 88 associations represented.
Thank you, Keith. And it is 9:39, and I'll call the meeting to order. You would please rise to the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Do you have any no votes on minutes? Okay. First item on the agenda is the approval of September 16th membership meeting minutes. May I have a motion to approve? Thank you. Second? Dan Page is second. The proxies have been submitted. There are no votes. Does anyone in attendance have an objection to approval of the minutes? Seeing none, then we will assume the minutes are approved unanimously. Next item on the agenda is the management reports, and I will call upon Ginger first.
Good morning. Happy fall-ish day. I see everybody's got their sweaters on and feels good out there. All right, let's get started here. I'll move through this. I know you've got some other business this morning, so we'll just talk about some operational activity here. We've got the fitness usage for September. It's that time of year, you'll start see these numbers climbing. And the water attendance, as it gets cooler, will decline. That's a, there's death taxes and how people don't like cold water in the morning. So here's your land group class attendance, and total classes taught for the month is 91. We've got our spa and salon, for the month of September, 550 services performed for a little over 19,000 in sales for merchandise and services. In the food and beverage area, we had just shy of 5,000 patrons served in the month of September. Portico still staying steady at that 10, 11, 12% usage. We had the South Club sales for food and beverage at over 105,000, and La Perc still stays steady, just over about 2,400 there. Once the cafe opens up, there will be a new concept there the board's asked us to try, so we'll be able to measure that new concept against the grab-and-go concept. We've got our projects here. We've got the South Club pool deck expansion project still underway. On phase 1, I think the last time we all met and talked, we were still talking about permitting. So you can't make this stuff up, folks. As of November, it'll be 1 year. The architect now is making further changes that were required by Hillsborough County. Once he is finished, we will resubmit again, and with the corrected building plans as requested for review. And hopefully, hope springs eternal, we will at that point get our permit to start working on those cabana buildings and creating the new bar concept. In the meantime, progress is continuing with things like running the underground plumbing and electrical. Phase 1.5 has the ground preparation underway for the installation of the new concrete and conduit for the upcoming RFID pool gates. The RFID is what you swipe your badge with, and so getting into the pool in the future will require those. The replacement fencing and the new RFID gates and hardware have been ordered. Those will be delivered and installed in the coming weeks. And then the sound system that was approved by the board a week or so ago, that conduit installation is completed. On phase 2, the RFP process continues for the other components of this very large project for the shade structures, the appliances, and the pool furniture replacement and landscaping. As you all know, in the economy right now, just ordering things is a real task, and with long lead times, so we're getting ahead of those and making sure we can try to be as timely as possible when it comes time to put the furniture out and get the appliances and shade structures up. And finally, on phase 3, the future sound system bid that I mentioned was approved. That's all paid and the equipment has been ordered. On the main clubhouse, the roofing project is ongoing. Most residents aren't aware of it. It hasn't had any resident impact. The east wing is nearing completion, and then they will transition over to the west wing in the coming weeks. Jack noted yesterday in our session that there was a lift up there, and what was going on? Well, as they were taking the buckets of all the goo up to the roof, a bucket fell down. Oh no, right? And it crashed and made a big mess. So the vendor had to clean all that up. So that was kind of a little foobar there, but otherwise it's going quite well. On the main clubhouse renovation project, a large portion of the east and north lobby sections have been completed, and the work has begun on the next section that includes the area in front of the box office out here and the area directly in front of La Perc. Those of you who use those areas are aware they have been closed, and your access to the box office has been rerouted. The transportation lobby and business office access has been restored, though. So this new section is estimated to take approximately 4 weeks to complete, and La Perc will reopen with a new menu and dining concept, and the new lobby and hallway furniture is estimated to be delivered and installed in mid-November. On special events, the Winter Series is going quite well at this time. 8 of the shows have sold out. Matthew and Scott and the team anticipate within the next few weeks that 13 of the 14 shows will be completely sold out. With the success of the full series, the team led by theater director Scott Burgach, they've booked 3 additional pop-up shows. Somebody asked about, well, what happens when all the snowbirds come back and they're sold out? So there'll be more opportunities for people to enjoy some entertainment. Just here on Jen's Market, that's the outdoor fruit and vegetable market. They will be returning the first Tuesday of every month from 11 to 3 throughout the remainder of the season. And just a couple notes on some of the services. They have brought in the flu and COVID variant booster shots. Say that 3 times quickly. Were provided on September 19th to the 23rd. Over 1,300 boosters were given in addition to the 650 flu shots. This was the first mass vaccination event held indoors rather than outside with all the queuing of the cars and things, and it worked very well. And so going forward, that will be a model the team will surely be using again. Physician Stat Lab continues to be on site every Monday. You can get all your lab tests done if you get a prescription from your doctor from the convenience of your clubhouse here. And just these other services, podiatry, the on-spot dermatology, and Delivered RX, they continue to offer all their services. Make sure you watch for your e-blasts and notices in the pointer of when those programs are coming. Transportation data here, similar to the other operations, you'll see those usage rates and riderships climb. And in security, phone volume for September, over 8,000 calls to the gate with 12,000 passes issued. Patrol driving through the nighttime, watching things that go bump in the night in your neighborhoods. And they did over 2,000 miles and 34 incident reports written. We had a couple residents concerned about some Winn-Dixie cart and a scooter. The security returned those to the car. This was after the hurricane. So that was nice to get that notice and bring that back to the property. And finally, the security received a call from a woman who was concerned about her friend, couldn't reach her. And upon arrival to the scene, the dispatch security guard noticed there was already a security guard there. And it just so happened it was the woman's neighbor. And he had already been to the location. He had found a neighbor with a key. They'd gotten in and found the woman had fallen and couldn't get up and required medical attention. And the squad was called and arrived shortly. Always like to give kudos to this program because it's just so critical. The eyes and ears are out there, but so many of the staff are residents, your neighbors, and you know if they can get there first, minutes matter sometimes, and so it was a great team effort. And that is my report. Happy fall.
A couple things. How do you folks like the looks of the lobby and the hallway? Ginger mentioned it. So I do know that Vesta, and particularly Victoria, spent a great deal of time. And I know that the board and Vesta are eagerly anticipating the new furniture to be delivered. And it will probably make the lobby look totally different than it does now. But many people have commented when you walk in, it looks like a new building. So thank you, Ginger, for all the work, and please pass along to Victoria the work they put in. The second thing is to Ginger, you and your staff, after Hurricane Ian came through, the Herculean effort that Turf Keepers and your staff did to have the facilities open at noon on Friday. I was fortunate enough to be able to see the tree damage that was in the parking lot next to the North Club pool. Arriving a couple days later into that parking lot and seeing that you couldn't even find a leaf that was down was absolutely amazing. I know your main concern was getting the services back up for the residents so they could use them. So thank you very much for the entire effort on Vesta on that behalf to get the facilities back up and working and getting the area cleaned up that the land trust owes. Finally, and I told him I was going to do this, for those of you who don't know, Matt has a major anxiety for shots. And he has put off getting his COVID booster shot. And when they were here yesterday, he was, in fact, RX Delivered even called him and reminded him that he was getting his shot yesterday. Tosh went to his office and basically said, come on, we got to go to the banquet room and getting your shot. Matt advised her he couldn't leave his office and wasn't going. Tosh, in her ultimate wisdom, said, well, if I can't bring Mohammed to the mountain, I'll bring the mountain to Mohammed. She went back, got the nurse from RX Delivered and brought her to Matt's office to administer the shot. Matt, it's good to see that you're here today and you did survive. So congratulations. And just look, next month you get your flu shot. So I know you can prepare for that. Before I turn them in, Keith, Steve already knows I'm going to pick on him. Jim Gundry and I were standing with Keith in front of the 2020 building, with Steve in front of the 2020 building, and as Steve always does, he had his sport coat on, and we were standing there talking. As people were going in to work out, one of the residents said to Steve, oh, I guess you're not going to be working out today. And without missing a beat, Steve looked at this resident and said, no, I'm feeling rather buff today. So we are glad that we finally got Steve to lighten up a little and have a sense of humor. But I do have to tell you that I think Jim Gundry had to go home and change his clothes because I have never seen Jim laugh so hard when Steve just put out. So Steve is now known as Mr. Buff. So therefore, I'll turn the meeting over to you, and you can do any daggers at me you'd like, Mr. Buff.
Thank you. I didn't know this was a roast. And then I leaned on a tree, and the tree cracked, and they had to take it down, right? Anyways, back to business. The management report, I will keep it relatively brief only because there's a couple of new business items that will be voted on, which will take some time. So since I've seen you last, we had a hurricane. Other than that, there's been a lot going on. The hurricane cleanup is nearing the completion. Regular landscape services have resumed. The new schedules are now out for palm fertilization, which is underway, tree clean out, and landscape services. Those schedules have been released. Please continue to submit work orders now for any landscaping needs. Monthly landscaping review meeting was held on Wednesday, October the 5th, and those results are posted on kpscc.com under the landscape tab. Many of you know bulk mulch deliveries and spreading is currently underway. It seems to be going relatively well. I'd like to thank Joey for all of his efforts in trying to make sure every day that that is attended to the right way. Administratively, unfortunately, as I reported at the Fed Board meeting, the county sent us notice water rates will increase this month 5.88%. The first notice for association annual meetings are being mailed according to meeting date. I know I've already mailed a couple of associations first notice, so you should be receiving those and your residents at least 60 days prior to your meeting. The association budget drafts, we are working very hard on budget drafts. All of the stakeholders in the budgets are working on those right now. Those will tentatively be available to you on or around November 15th. We will send each association an email to confirm when those budget drafts can be picked up in our office. And that is my report, sir.
Could you just comment on the progress on hurricane claims? I know you've had conversations with USI regarding probably the largest damage, which was to the carports and where that stands, and also with some of the roofs that were damaged in the back.
Sure. I believe we're working individually with associations on the roofs. I'll start with that. A lot of the roof damage was minor and was able to be repaired. There are some roofs that had some pretty severe damage to them. USI is aware of those. Some of them either have an adjuster being scheduled to come out and look at the roofs or already have. So if you have any concerns with your roofs within your association, please talk to your CAM about that. Carports, for those associations with carports, that was our area outside of trees and debris of the most widespread damage. There was a lot of carport damage. There is a carport policy that the Federation has that does cover the carports. There's a deductible of 5% hurricane deductible on the value of those carports. We've reported most of them and recorded most of them. An insurance adjuster was out, looked at the carports, and our instructions back to you all is if you have carport damage, get an estimate, send us the estimate. We will send that in to Brian and Adam at USI, who will submit that to Heritage, and we've been told that they will look at those claims and most likely cover those claims.
Thank you. And just regarding the carports, and just so I've gotten a couple calls for questioning. The deductible is 5% of the value of the individual carport itself, which would be the association responsibility. So if you have a carport that's worth $2,000, that's basically a $100 deductible that you'd have if they have to replace the carport or repair it. So the carports really did sustain some damage in some communities, but the burden upon the associations because of the low value of the carports really should not be significant, which we're very fortunate of. I do pick on you, Steve. I think I've gotten you loosened up, but I do want to tell you, if you all noticed when Hurricane Ian hit, shortly thereafter, Steve was sending out emails for presidents to contact him with any damage, and he gave out his email and stuff. The community in its working together basically inundated Steve's email. I do know that the weekend after the hurricane, although he had damage in his home, he was here on property. And he also spent the weekend trying to answer those emails, make sure that USI was notified of any damage that was being reported. Steve took on himself the Herculean effort of coordinating the damages in the community and responding to the residents. And for Steve, I appreciate it and thank you.
Thanks. My pleasure.
With that, we'll move to committee reports. And I'll start to the far end of the table, which I believe Vicki is down this. Vicki, do you have anything? Randy, anything? Then I'll go to Ray, and I know Ray has some comments on insurance, so.
I don't like it. The insurance committee has met several times since we've been together. In fact, we met yesterday. We will have figures next week as far as a budget amount. We have talked about our insurance program with our brokers a lot, and they are, in my estimation, doing a really good job of trying to keep things together. By the way, and Jack told me this, the president of Heritage was here over the weekend, and my understanding, he was very impressed with the way this community has responded. And I don't know if he was impressed because he thought a bunch of old people couldn't do it, or just the fact that we did a heck of a job. The cleanup here was amazingly quick, and I've gone to a lot of hurricanes. I was astounded. And with that, I guess that's about all I got to say. We'll have figures for each association at the appropriate time through Jim, but the Federation will have some idea next week what the cost, what we guesstimate the cost increase will be. And please realize that the actual rate will not be available to us till probably sometime in March, late March probably, of next year. So it is at best a guesstimate, and we're trying really hard to get as close as we can to that amount. That's it, Jack.
Okay, thank you. I would ask the members in attendance to mark November 4th, which is the board meeting. During that board meeting, USI will be here providing us with, it's November 4th. November 4th, Jeff. USI will be here providing their best guesstimate after working with the insurance company and consulting with the board on what they are expecting the budgetary figure to be, because Steve has to have those to insert into the association's budget. And I would ask that, you know, all interested parties attend, because it's probably the single largest budgetary item that the Federation has. Ray said that he kind of hates it. I will tell you that it probably will not be pretty. I know that when we did the land trust budget, they were looking at a 25% or more increase. It's not bad enough this year that we have to do a increase in insurance rates, but also the property has to be assessed and revalued, which won't be done until January, so it's a best guess of what that valuation is going to be. First Service has already contacted Drew Isaac and Associates, who is doing the evaluation. They expect a 20% increase in the evaluation for replacement costs in the community, which will take the community replacement cost for the buildings to probably slightly over $1 billion. There's not many condominiums or properties that have a value, a replacement value over $1 billion. So we have asked, I know Ray has asked, I have talked to USI to contact Heritage and ask them of the likelihood that they are going to do a $1 billion policy for Kings Point. They have advised us that it is very likely that they will be doing it, which is good news because we don't have many alternatives. But I just wanted to let you folks know that. But please, if you are interested for your associations of what the insurance is going to be, there will be a review of it by USI at the board meeting on the 4th of November. So please mark your calendars. And with that, Jim, I'll turn over the treasurer's report to you.
Well, two things. The Finance Committee, we did meet. We'll have our recommendations to the board at our special board meeting on Monday on the budget, our budget recommendations for the Federation next year. And I got, my calendar for November is like every other day I have a meeting, so that's why I was a little confused when he said that.
Keep you out of trouble.
But we do have a special board meeting to discuss the budget on Monday. So, okay, and with that, I'm going to go to the 6-month figures. Where are you? Next page. Okay, excuse me, we're coordinating things here. As you can see, this is as of September the 30th. This is the unaudited figures. Showing our current assets and the restricted funds. And at the bottom, the liabilities, the reserve fund liabilities, which match out, obviously, And then the members' equity, showing that what we show as total assets and liability and equity. Okay, next page. Next is, shows our revenue. The budgeted assessments, which is the fee that we're collecting now on the PUPM, that's for 6 months, and that's 65 cents per door currently, per month. The transfers are the transfers from prior year, from last fiscal year to this year. Those were made in April the 1st. Under the other receipts, that is the same thing. Those are transfer fees and interest for the year so far. So those shows our total receipts. The next shows our general operating expenditures. The administrative is just the typical office. The utilities is what it seems like, the phone and the electric, et cetera, for the office. The contracts here is actually the contracts for janitorial and pest control for the cleaning of the offices. Next page over. And these show the reserve report, the next page. The landscape and the grounds cleanup, these will be discussed at our special board meeting on Monday. As I think Jack said last time we had our board meeting, those funds will hopefully be released so we can pay for the cleanup, the debris cleanup that we just took part in here. That's what they're there for. And I'm going to also say they have not been used since 2017, thank God. So we should be thankful for that. The insurance deductible is, this is our share of when you have a lawsuit or something like that, or you pay out, we pay $2,500 of the deduct. Is it 25 or 45? I'm trying to remember. $4,500 towards that. You pay your deductible of $500. The legal fund AC1 is required by law. That never changes. We have to have a $25,000 in there. Under professional services, between the transfers are, the 148, that was transferred over from 4/1, April 1st, as well as the fees that we've collected, the 21,547. So where's 148? Contracts as monies from 4/1, and the receipts there is we did get some money back on a contract that was not from one of the landscapers, I'll be honest with you, for non-completion of work. And community promotion is what it is, the website, et cetera. And then we have the registration fees. And that's through September the 30th.
Can I make one correction?
Yes.
The insurance deductible fund is paying $4,500 for an insurance claim on property non-hurricane
Non-hurricane.
deductible, because there's a $5,000 deductible, and the insurance deductible fund pays $4,500 of that $5,000 deductible.
I stand corrected, and I'm glad he corrected that. And it's, as I say, we've been very fortunate in not having to shell out as much money as we necessarily have to. So we've been very lucky on that. And I'm also going to, I'll pass it along, thanks to the associations too, because that liability fund, that insurance fund where he's referring to, we haven't had a lot of problems. And you all have not done, you've done your, you in other words, you haven't had to insurance claims that we've had to pay that out on, which is good.
Okay. Unfortunately, Shirley is on a well-deserved vacation with her husband, and she wanted to call into the meeting today, and she was unable to. But I know Mary Ann Meeker is here. Mary Ann, and to the entire Disaster Preparedness Committee, I think you served us well. Uh, Everything seemed to operate smoothly after the hurricane. I know you recently put out a reminder to the community that hurricane season is not over with, but the preparedness that you did for the community and getting them to be aware, we were very fortunate we didn't get a direct hit, but you know, there are reports that wind came through Kings Point at 85 miles an hour. I want to thank you and the entire committee for all the work you did in the preceding 6-7 months of putting together that hurricane preparedness and informing the community as best you could of what to expect. And it did work very smoothly, whether it was coordinating with First Service to make sure that Brown's Tree was here, that the landscapers were here, to where the debris would be placed, and I know the county is picking up the debris, that you had everything ready to go and things working out well. So I even know that the emergency squad, and I thank them for it, for people who lost power, were delivering oxygen tanks to those individuals. So Mary Ann, personally, the board would like to thank you for your work, and we will pass those compliments along to Shirley when she returns. And if you would let the rest of the Disaster Preparedness Committee know our appreciation, I would very much appreciate it. And just let's hope we don't see another one come through between now and the end of November. With that, we will go to the new business on the contract. The first item is the proposed renewal for the Bug Guys contract for 3 years. It is, and Steve, you can possibly address this, the amount of additional costs to us. I know Steve worked diligently from where Bug Guys originally proposed to what Bug Guys finally settled with us on the negotiation of that extension.
Yes, thank you. What we did was talk with Bug Guys about, because we don't have to go out for an RFP on this because this is a renewal, and if this is approved, this would be the sixth year of the contract. The Bug Guys came to us and wanted essentially a 13% increase in the first year of this contract price, and went back to them and said, let's, one of my favorite terms, sharpen the pencil a little bit here and see what we can make reasonable, and that ended up being an 8% increase, which is only a is a $6,000 increase to the current contract price. So that's an 8% increase. Basically, what it boils down to is 9 cents per unit per month in the first year of the contract. The contract would be for $79,500 beginning April 1, 2023, and then with 3% increases in the 2 subsequent years to that.
You done?
Yes, sir.
I will accept a motion from the floor to approve the pest control contract addendum as distributed. Diane gave the motion. Pardon? Thanks, Dave. And Dan seconded the motion. I'll open it to the floor for discussion.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Diane Daniels from Southampton 1. Good morning, board and our guests. My question is that on the memos that we have, that outside of the increase for the payment to Bug Eyes, everything else was going to be remaining in the contract. Is that correct,
That
Steve?
is correct. It's
Okay.
exactly as it is now. And one of the things that the board talked to Steve about is there are supplemental offerings on that contract. One of the things that associations should pay close attention to in that is, I believe it's $85 for removal of pest or varmint within your unit, which is a astronomically low price. Steve was concerned that they were going to change those supplemental pricing in that contract. Steve sent them the contract, and if you notice what the copy was sent out, it is already signed by Bug Guys. They are not changing any of those supplemental. All the other terms and conditions remain the same.
And that is a very low price for the trapping and the removal of the pests. My concern is which my association has had problems with Bug Guys for the past 3 years, is that the actual exclusion of the rodents, which they come and they patch up where your air conditioning duct lines are and up on top where your vents are to patch that all up so the rodents can't get in there. Okay, on the exhibit, okay, it says to be determined. So they never put in a price, and then what happened is that Bug Guys never did that work. They contacted another company to come to do that for the residents, and they charged them an astronomical amount of money to do that. And I had worked with Keith, and Keith had talked with Robert, and they said they weren't going to do that anymore. So now they're just telling the residents, well, you'll have to take care of that yourself. So I don't know why it's on here, okay, if they're not going to do that, so that the residents will be clear, you know, what is expected of the pest control company in regards to the rodent exclusion. That's very important.
And let me address yours from my association perspective and not from the federation perspective. We had a company that came out that did the blocking of the entryways for buildings. That company had done other work within Kings Point, and Steve is aware of them, and Keith are aware of them. Very reasonable, I think, for doing a quadruplex, the entire quadruplex. It was like $400 to do all the pest entry. So we do have companies out there. They are aware of them. And I would be more than glad to tell Steve and Keith, because Keith is very well familiar with the Bug Guys, that if they're going to subcontract that work out, that we don't expect some company that's going to sit back and gouge us. And I know in the past that I think it was Keith has referred some associations to the company that Tremont One used, which is a very reasonable price. And if you have to get the exclusions, I would suggest instead of you just calling somebody, you're just letting Bug Guys, because it's to be determined, that you look for someone to do those exclusions and look to First Service to find you a reasonable company.
Correct. I would just prefer that to be determined would be taken out, and for them to say, we don't do it.
And I would just tell
And
them.
no subcontract, there's no subcontracting in the contract.
And I would just look at them, and we basically told them, because they were subcontracting the work out. In fact, the pest control, they were, or the trappings, they were hiring another company, and that other company are referring people to another company to get it done.
Right.
And we went back to them and said, no. It's a part of your contract to do that trapping, which they acquiesced to say, yes, it is. You don't have to use them for that exclusion. It's there. I would suggest to the membership they don't use when it's looking at closing off those holes, that you work with First Service and find a more reasonable company and have them come out and do it. It is there as a convenience. It's not required to be used.
Exactly. And my second point is, can I ask, it seems like that we are offering these new contracts with an automatic increase each year, of 3% increase to them, with nothing to do but for them to sign the paper, which Mr. Kirkwood has already signed. So we're automatically just giving these companies a 3% increase when I feel like they should be working for it or have incentives towards it. I don't know why we're automatically just giving companies 3% raises just to sign a piece of paper of the contract.
I could only tell you, and I will look to Steve and look to Keith, most contracts, including our landscape contracts and stuff, most contracts that are multi-year do have an increase. You look at the cost of inflation currently at 8%. These companies basically are asking for 3% to cover the additional costs of wages and inflation. It stops us from having to go back and go to the membership every year to approve a contract amendment on it, and generally that's why they're done with a multi-year. There is a minimal, and 3% really is a minimal amount for the cost of inflation and wages and everything else, and that's why they're in there.
And I understand the premise of it, but I just feel all they have to do is show up and they're going to get the 3% raise. All I'm saying is I wish we would look into, and I'm trying to work with Dan and the contract committee now on that, for other ways that we could exercise that 3%, but get the companies to put some skin in besides just showing up. That's all. I think it's much better for all the residents and for the Federation, you know, if we looked into something like that instead of them, because we have so many problems, you know, with the companies, and we try to work on that, and I know First Service does a great job in doing that, but we can eliminate a lot of that if we had them put more skin in the game. That's just
I
all
don't
it is.
disagree with you.
But thank you very much for listening.
Diane, I know that I have to listen to you, so.
Dan Page, treasurer of Andover D. Several years ago, one unit, a man got bit on the cheek by a rat. And we had Alley Cat come in. Within 3 or 4 days, they were gone. Several weeks ago, one resident called me about some critters in his unit. So he called the bug guys, and they said they don't handle that. They did not offer him any solution. Okay, I talked to him after that. He doesn't think they're there anymore. I felt that he had a lot of junk in his place. Okay, if the place was clean, I think it's one thing for the association to have some responsibility. When you go in, there are boxes and junk everywhere. That's their responsibility, not the association.
Dan, in regard to the person calling bug guys and say they don't do it, they should have referred it to their CAM, who would have made an appointment to trap the animals for them. And if any association calls and bug guy said we don't do it, you should immediately call First Service, because First Service will get a hold of the bug guys and let them know that it is their responsibility for $85 to do the trapping of animals.
The man put traps out, and he said he hasn't picked anything up. Okay, we have other major problems, so I was trying to get him to handle this himself. We have another problem that's going to probably cost us $40,000 to $50,000, and that problem is more important to me. Okay? Again, if his place was clean, but when you keep boxes of junk everywhere, something gets in there. You know, you have to assume the responsibility to clean it.
I would agree with you. Any other discussion? Unfortunately, I could only say that there are proxies that are yes and proxies that are no. Therefore, we will have to take an entire roll call vote on this amendment. So, Keith, I'm turning it over to you to.
Just didn't want to hear me talk anymore. So.
No, it just takes forever to go through a roll
Okay,
call
all right.
vote.
Ready? I'm gonna go through. You can just mark their vote too. I've got the proxy there. So I'm just gonna call the associations that does not have a proxy and that's here present.
You have to call the proxies because there are yes and no votes in the proxies. You're going to have to call every association that's present in person or proxy
And give the vote.
and take the vote. Yeah.
Alrighty. So Acadia, I'm gonna mark them here. Yeah, you're gonna need 3 columns. So I would just do, yep. I got it here too. So Acadia, yes by proxy. Acadia 2. Andover D. Andover F, yes by proxy. Andover G, yes by proxy. Andover H, yes by proxy. Andover I, yes by proxy. Bedford B, yes by proxy. Bedford C, no by proxy. Bedford E, Bedford F, yes by proxy. Bedford G, yes. Bedford H, yes by proxy. Bedford J, Bedford J. Oh. Yeah. You're like, why isn't that person answering?
We all have those moments. Don't worry about it.
Brookfield, yes by proxy. Cambridge A, yes by proxy. Cambridge B, thank you. Cambridge K is yes by proxy. Cambridge L, yes by proxy. Cambridge M, yes by proxy. Corinth. Devonshire is yes by proxy. Dorchester A, yes by proxy. Dorchester B, yes by proxy. Dorchester C. Dorchester D, no by proxy. Edinburgh, yes by proxy. Fairborn. Thank you. Fairfield A. Fairfield D is yes by proxy. Fairfield E, yes by proxy. Fairfield G. Fairfield H is yes by proxy. Gloucester A. Gloucester B is yes by proxy. Gloucester D, yes by proxy. Gloucester E, yes by proxy. Gloucester F. Gloucester H, yes by proxy. Gloucester J, yes by proxy. Gloucester M, yes by proxy. Gloucester M, yes by proxy. Gloucester N, yes by proxy. Gloucester P. Grantham. Highgate B. Highgate C. Highgate D. Highgate F is yes by proxy. Highgate 2. Highgate 4 is yes by proxy. Idlewood. Inverness is yes by proxy. Jameson. Kensington, Knowles 1, yes by proxy. Knowles 2, no by proxy. Knowles 3, yes by proxy. Lancaster 1, yes by proxy. Lancaster 2, yes by proxy. Lancaster 3, yes by proxy. Lancaster 4. Manchester 1, yes by proxy. Manchester 2. Manchester 3 is yes by proxy. Manchester 4, yes by proxy. Maplewood is yes by proxy. Nantucket 1. Nantucket 2. Nantucket 4. Nantucket 5. Oakley Green. Oxford 1 is yes by proxy. Oxford 2. Portsmouth. Princeton. Radisson 1. Radisson 2 is no by proxy. Richmond, yes by proxy. Somerset. Southampton 1. Southampton 2. Tremont 1. Tremont 2 is yes by proxy. Worthington. Lastly, Yorkshire is yes by proxy. All right, Mr. President, you have 83 associations voting yes for 4,444 units, representing 95.2% of the vote, and 222 units voting no, with 4.8% of the vote, and 5 associations voting no. 83 yes, 5 no. Unit count was 4,444 to 222.
I would dispute your vote count, Recording Secretary. As you advised at the beginning of the meeting, we had 88 associations representing 3,684 units, and you just told me that you had votes yes of 4,444 units.
Well, that's because I read
So
my
I-
sheet wrong in the beginning. I'm going to go take myself to the back and get reprimanded.
Jim,
My apologies. So
Jim, we have to, another demerit. Steve,
one-
can you
it's one-
please get a recording secretary?
to be fair, the sheet says it over here too. So,
I know. So how many?
so you have 88 associations present by in person or by proxy,
And
with
how many-
4,666 units total.
So we will go back to correct the roll call that established the quorum to show 88 units for 4,666
Correct.
units. Thank you. I didn't want to report a different vote than we have for in present. We know you're new to this job. It's okay. We still want you back.
Vastly improved from the last time.
You folks don't know this, but when we went to do the minutes of the last time we had a membership meeting and took a roll call vote, we ended up with the same problem. It was because of hidden cells. And when Steve wrote up the minutes, I said, Steve, the minutes of the roll call don't agree the minutes of the vote. And he went through and said, oh, there's some hidden cells here that were being picked up. So we did write Keith up for that. So now we're going to have to write you up again. Jim just advised him his 90-day evaluation is coming up, so.
I'm gonna go sit my mat Matt, is there? Oh,
I will tell you, the Federation Board, and it's every single member on the Federation Board, gets along very well with our management team, both whether it is Vesta or whether it is First Service. And we do like to pick on each other on a continual basis. And I will tell you, if anybody would have attended the RFEC meeting, and I think Susan Raba did the other day, attended the RFEC meeting, it was like a class of kindergartners because we were all picking on each other and laughing and joking during the meeting. So there is no ill will felt when we pick on Keith or we pick on Steve or Matt. It is all in good jest, and they know it. The second item on the agenda is the proposed amendment to the First Service residential contract. And before I ask for a motion on it, let me give you a little background. We have two companies that evaluate the landscaper's performance. And it was, they are First Service residential. Joey inspects the property every week. So Joey is basically responsible for visiting all 113 associations. That's over 20-some properties he has to visit a day, along with trying to do the rest of his normal work that he has to do outside of inspecting properties for evaluation of the performance. The other company which we currently have is known as OLM. The gentleman who comes out to the property and does inspections, his name is Paul Woods, in case you've heard from him. Paul Woods is at the property on Monday and Tuesday and a half a day Wednesday, the fourth week of the month. And he does his inspection of the property. Over the last year and a half, as Joey and Ryan were inspecting the property, and then Paul would come in on the last week, we would find that almost everything that Paul Woods would say was a failure or deficiency of the landscaper was the same thing that Joey was finding as the evaluation. Now, just to let you know, our OLM contract for that gentleman to be here 2.5 days a week, we pay him $2,000 a day. So he is paid $72,000 a year. And this is a contract that is almost set to expire because it's at its 6-year useful life. We went to First Service and we advised First Service we were not satisfied with, one, the scoring sheet, the way it was being done, and two, we were not satisfied with the inspections the way they were being done because we believed that the landscapers were doing worse than they were being scored. And we had the board had a long conversation with First Service and the landscapers on their performance. The score sheets are posted. You see what the scores are. We believe the scores in many incidences are too high. And we went to First Service and said, how can we rectify this? First Service said, well, we would like to hire a second landscape specialist to be able to assist in the property inspections and be able to alleviate some of the burden upon one individual being the landscape specialist and all of the things that he has to do. There is no person that is physically capable of doing what Joey is tasked with doing. And First Service said we'd like to hire an additional person. The only problem is it is not within the rates we have billed you or in our budgeted dollars to be able to pay for an additional landscaper. The board met with the landscaping committee. The board met by itself and went back to First Service and said, it is economically better for this community to take the $72,000 we are spending for OLM, and it has 5 months left on that contract, to take those $6,000 a month and use those $6,000 and increase our payment to First Service and allow them to hire a second landscape specialist. basically for $6,000, instead of getting 20 hours a month in work, we would get an employee with 160 hours of work and be able to do a better job in overseeing and controlling the landscapers. So in the proposal, we went to First Service and we said, okay, this is what we could do. Now, we did not put the $30,000 that is in this amendment, we didn't put it would come from OLM. It's really not proper that we're sending out information when the contractor doesn't even know that we are proposing to terminate his contract. It wouldn't work out to the community's best. So we really didn't want to publish that we were looking at terminating OLM's contract. OLM has been here for many years. So the board apologizes that we didn't give you the fact of where that $30,000 was coming from, but we felt we had to ensure that we weren't sending out that we were terminating a contract, because if this amendment is not passed, we are not going to terminate their contract, and we didn't want to give them that information that we were looking at turning. It would not work for a good business working relationship. So that is why the contract, basically in the contract amendment, calls for an increase of their salary of $30,000, and it will not cost the residents an additional cent in having this additional landscaper. The other parts of this contract, when we sent it through, First Service's legal department is a stickler to making sure that things are right in the contracts. In our existing contract today is a section which is entitled Disclosures. It lists all of First Service's affiliates. So any person that wants to know if First Service is using one of their affiliates in this community to do work, that we are well aware of it because we know who they are. Over the last 2.5 years, some of their affiliates have changed. They've added some, deleted some. So with this contract amendment, they corrected that particular section to give us the most current, up-to-date listing of who those affiliates with First Service are. We require them to let us know who an affiliate of them or who one of their sub companies are, so we know that they're not doing self-dealing and that we are not promoting self-dealing. So all they did was correct their listing within this contract, which is paragraph 1211(1). When I say their attorney is rather fastidious, she noticed in 1211(2) that there was a word that is develop, and it should have been develops, pluralized, and she made a correction to that paragraph to correct the word develop to develops. If you go into the existing contract, you would see that that is the only change to 1211(2). And if you were to read 1211(1), which are their affiliate company, you would find that the only thing that has changed in that contract is the listing of the companies. It was gone over word by word by word. So those take care of the Section 5 of the addendum that First Service has sent to us. This has been reviewed by Corporate Counsel. It is basically a 5-month term left on the First Service contract, so this is only for the next 5 months because the contract is going out for RFP. And I think Diane will advise you, because she works on the contract committee, that we already are putting in the RFP a second requirement for another landscape specialist. It is a part of the upcoming RFP. And we would just like to get this corrected going forward and try and get that additional landscape specialist. I know that First Services had conversations, and the board was very concerned that whoever is hired has the necessary certifications. And they just ask for, if they hire someone that has been in the industry but doesn't necessarily have their state Florida Nursery Growers and Landscape Association certification, that they're required to get it. The only problem is it's only given twice a year. So that is why we said, fine, you can have 90 days, but they have to have it at the end of 90 days, which is why it's required to have by February 1st. So that basically gives you the rundown of why the board is suggesting and approve this to take to the membership, this particular contract amendment. We feel it would better serve the community to enhance the oversight of the landscapers and also help Joey with all the work he is doing. Joey is a very diligent, hardworking individual, but he only can do so much, and I know he puts in extra hours and stuff. I was amazed, and I'm just going to throw this in, it's not a part of this discussion. I think the delivery and spreading of the mulch this year is probably the most organized process that this community has seen in years. Every day, Joey takes and sends out the entire schedule of what has been delivered, what has been completed, when things will be delivered, and he is providing the notice by association. So every association has the knowledge of when it will be delivered and when it will be spread. It was never done in the process that it's done now. I thank Joey for the work he has done on it, but this takes a lot of time for him to do, making sure that everything is signed and stuff. On top of that, he still has to go out and inspect all the properties. He still has to answer all of the work order requests that come in to make sure the work orders are resolved and stuff. It is truly impossible for one individual to do all this work. And I think the Federation has been confronted with this problem for many, many years, and I appreciate that First Service is willing to step up and say, we'll hire an additional employee, just help us with their pay. So with that, I will ask for a motion to approve. Thank you. Jim, thank you for your second. Any discussion? Mike, please.
English, Lancaster 4. I agree about Joey. He came out and spent 2 hours with our association, did a great job. That better? Okay. I agree about Joey. He came out to our association, spent 2 hours, knew every single tree, branch. He was amazing with his knowledge. Just one question. I can't get my head around the math here. We're going to increase $30,000 for this year? And we're keeping OLM on this year. I thought you said you had a contract with OLM for 5 more months.
We will terminate the contract. We have a 30-day clause to terminate the contract. We will terminate the contract immediately, which means in November, we will not be paying OLM and paying them for the remaining 5 months. And just so you know, behind the scenes, that termination letter has already been written and sitting waiting for signature. So,
Hi, Jack. This is Susan Rabba from Manchester 2.
could you get a little closer to Mike, Susan?
I'm short.
I know.
Okay, can you hear me now? Manchester 2. I have no problem hiring another person, but I would like this person on the interim, this period that you want him to be here for the 6 months remaining. Is it 6 months? Something like that. It should be a person that comes in here with his credentials. We shouldn't have to wait for him till February to get those certifications while on the job. We had that situation with Ryan, and you know where it got us. Okay? So why can't we hire a person that's already qualified with all the certifications?
I will let Steve address or Keith address that particular issue. One of the problems is, Susan, is the state only provides those certifications semi-annually. So if that person is doing landscaping work today, and there are a lot of landscape individuals in the area that, although they are well-versed and have the knowledge, may not actually have that Florida State certification. So they are qualified, but we're saying we don't care of your qualification. We want to make sure that you have the certification from the state. So I'll let Steve address the
But I'm
three-month
sure you
period.
must have people out there that have certifications. I mean, just like we have doctors that are doctors, we don't wait for them to get their degree and go to them, right?
Don't go to a hospital and deal with an intern.
That's my point.
So Joey is credentialed, and this person
know
will,
that.
right, so this person will be working side by side with Joey. We have a very narrow candidate pool identified for the position who will come from the industry and has extensive experience with this type of work. So I know personally I'm comfortable with having someone under Joey's wing who does have that kind of experience. I understand completely what you're saying. The field work is extremely important, more so than the book knowledge. And that's, I think, what we have to keep in mind is we want someone who's proficient and has already demonstrated that proficiency as opposed to just having it on a piece of paper. So that's what we're looking at, and I'm confident that we will make a hire that will benefit this community and will be an appropriate hire.
Okay, well, my next question is, I know Joey is out in the field now with the mulching. We did our spring mulching. I think Joey was fairly new. We received absolutely no help. I got a phone call 6:45 that they're arriving. I had to jump out of bed, and I monitored, and my landscaper, my POC, he was out there till 11:45, monitoring where to put, what to put, and even with all that coverage, things didn't get done the way it should have. So I'm hoping that's the reason. And I feel that a spring mulching is much easier because what you're putting down now, come the winter months and all the leaves falling, they're going to blow that mulch out to kingdom come, which is what's been happening even now with my April mulching, because they have blown half the mulch away in the process of cleaning up. And my next question is, and I'll end it with this, we're having the palm tree fertilization. I know he sends out a notice that it will
Susan,
be in Section 3.
Susan, I'm going to interrupt you. Can we keep your discussion to the amendment that's on the floor, which is not involving the palm trees?
But isn't Joey responsible also to oversee that?
He oversees that contract, which is done with a different company, but he oversees that.
Okay, what I'm getting at is, can we get a specific schedule when he's in my area? Because I have not seen that company since June. The monthly care is not there.
You will get
that's what
that
I'm
ahead of
asking.
time, and we are sending it to associations. Many of you have seen it. The Palm Fert schedule is out, so you'll get that ahead of
Okay, so
time.
because they're in Section
Yes,
4,
ma'am.
I haven't seen mine yet. Thank
Correct.
you.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other comments, discussion? Seeing none, Keith, would you do? Oh, I'm sorry, Eileen, I didn't. Holler it out.
First of all, I want to say that Joey has been doing, in my personal opinion and the opinion of my association, an excellent job. I'm Eileen Pico from Kensington. And so we want to say thank you to Joey for the hard work that he has done, and he's done an excellent job for us. However, I have to express a little bit of concern that goes along with what Susan just said, is that it seems that, frankly, in the past, First Service has had a habit of making us a training ground for new people who are not experienced, who do not have necessarily the credentials. Yes, they're well-intentioned and they're going to work and they're going to try to get them, but it seems to me that we should be looking for someone who, if you're going to add another person, that is already highly qualified and experienced. And the language in what you had in here, you know, they don't even have to have, and I understand what you're saying about the timing on the credentials, but the contract is over the end of March, and the person doesn't even have to have their credentials till the 1st of February. So, you know, come on, okay? The other thing that I would like to mention is this whole issue with the financial services entry that you have added to the contractors that can come in here and work that are affiliates. What is this the only one that's being added, or were there others that were being added and others that were being deleted? We were not provided as presidents a list of all of those. Was there just the one that you were adding?
I don't understand your question, Eileen.
Well, it says the landscape specialist. I'm reading what the notes were that you all gave us. The landscape specialist, not that one, sorry. The disclosures is that the organization, you wanted to modify it, but then the only one that you mentioned is First Service Financial.
Two separate sections, Eileen. One is section 1211.1, which is disclosures,
Okay.
which basically is providing the current, and the second one is to correct a Scribner error in 12.2, which is entitled First Service Financials, which is the change of the word develop to develops.
Okay. All right. Just seems it would be helpful if we had a little more information a little bit further in advance and some opportunity to discuss some of these things before we're brought very expensive contracts to approve. Thank you.
Any other comments or discussions? Ray, do you see anybody? Said, do you see anybody? Because I didn't see Eileen as you did. And Keith, I will ask you to take roll call vote.
One more time.
Thank God.
Here we go. Buckle up. Okay, Acadia, yes by proxy. Acadia 2. Andover D. Andover F, yes by proxy. Andover G, yes by proxy. Andover H, no by proxy. Andover I, yes by proxy. Bedford B, no by proxy. Bedford C, no by proxy.
Could we not have these conversations on the floor because they can be heard at the head table?
Bedford E. Bedford F, yes by proxy. Bedford G. Bedford H, yes by proxy. Bedford J. Brookfield, yes by proxy. Cambridge A, yes by proxy. Cambridge B. Cambridge K is yes by proxy. Cambridge L, yes by proxy. Cambridge M, yes by proxy. Corinth. Devonshire, yes by proxy. Dorchester A, yes by proxy. Dorchester B, yes by proxy. Dorchester C. Dorchester D, yes by proxy. Edinburgh, yes by proxy. Fairborn. Fairfield A. Fairfield B, yes by proxy. Fairfield D, yes by proxy. Fairfield E, yes by proxy. Fairfield G. Fairfield H, yes by proxy. Gloucester A. Gloucester B is yes by proxy. Gloucester D, yes by proxy. Gloucester E, yes by proxy. Gloucester F. Gloucester H, yes by proxy. Gloucester J, yes by proxy. Gloucester M, yes by proxy. Gloucester M, yes by proxy. Gloucester N, yes by proxy. Gloucester P. Grantham. Highgate B. Highgate C. Highgate D. Highgate F is no by proxy. Highgate 2. Highgate 3 is yes by proxy. Highgate 4, yes by proxy. Idlewood. Inverness, yes by proxy. Jameson. Kensington. Knowles 1, yes by proxy. Knowles 2, no by proxy. Knowles 3, yes by proxy. Lancaster 1, yes by proxy. Lancaster 2, yes by proxy. Lancaster 3, no by proxy. Lancaster 4. Manchester 1, yes by proxy. Manchester 2. Manchester 3, yes by proxy. Manchester 4, yes by proxy. Maplewood, yes by proxy. Nantucket 1. Nantucket 2. Nantucket 4. Nantucket 5. Oakley Green. Oxford 1 is no by proxy. Oxford 2. Portsmouth. Princeton. Radisson 1. Radisson 2 is no by proxy. Richmond, yes by proxy. Somerset. Southampton 1. Southampton 2. Tremont 1. Tremont 2 is yes by proxy. Worthington. Yorkshire is yes by proxy. See if we can get this number right this time, right? Oh, it's perfect. I'm reading it. Okay. Mr. President, you have 73 associations voting yes, with a total unit count of 3,732. And you have 15 associations voting no, for a total of 934 no votes. And you do have an accurate count for 4,666 votes.
Motion has passed. With that, I will open the floor up for any good and welfare announcements.
Doris Wente, Highgate D president. I just wanted a clarification. So the fund that the Federation has for deductibles only applies when it's not a hurricane. So we won't get any of those funds to help us with our deductibles.
That is correct.
Thank you.
I thought so too, Susan.
I was trying to be polite. Okay, I'm back again, and this is for actually good and welfare for all the residents. I know you guys encourage the fact that we should all attend these meetings, and people do not. And two important meetings, actually three, that happen every month, that not only the president should be here or their representatives, but the homeowners to attend, because there's a amount of information in the background that you don't hear at these meetings, because we already are here to vote on it. At the Federation board meeting, Vesta explains all these expenses and why we're doing it and what they're doing. And it's knowledge for all of us to know why you do what you do and what we're paying for. I would say 70% of the people are clueless or they don't even care. They just pay. And then when they get their monthly fees, then they start complaining to the board. So what I would like everybody to come to these meetings. One is the Master Association. It details all the expenses they put out every month, just like Vesta, what it puts out every month. And it's important for you to understand that. And I'm here 25 years. We never had this kind of board meeting. This room was always filled with people. And people were, that's how you get your knowledge to know what you're paying for. So I'm encouraging the Master Association, and especially Vesta has the, what is it called, the RFEC, which is your recreational funds. That's what maintains these buildings and the wonderful lifestyle that we have. But there are expenses that maybe could be held back. And one of my questions is, what is wrong with the South Club's system, their sound system? They were putting in a $54,000 new system. For what purpose? I live in Manchester too. When I have my sliders open, I could hear the music in the back of my house. I'm sure Radisson hears it, and Jameson, and whoever is around the clubhouse. What is the point? So everybody knows here, why we're spending $54,000 for a new system that wasn't even budgeted. So if you attend the RFEC meeting, you would have heard that the president gave them the task to find that money and in the budget. So now we're taking from Peter to pay Paul. So we're cutting back on something that was budgeted in order to have this new system. So I want to know, why are we needing a new system? Can you answer that? What's wrong with the old one? Is it broken? I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Okay. It is a new system indeed, but there isn't a system there. There is bands come and they blast out of their own speakers, et cetera. As Vicki and I believe Roger explained at the board meeting, to have a better quality of sound in this brand new kind of pool and social environment, it requires a speaker system that can have the same type of sound, not only in the people that are right in front, but all the way across the 15,000
And all the
square
way
foot
to the
deck.
residents' homes, the association.
Sound does
So
travel.
if you want to take a nap
That is-
Sunday
that
afternoon,
is absolutely
or want to
true.
watch the football game or something, you
And-
got to listen to you have to listen to this band.
Sound does travel. I apologize for that. As far as
Ginger,
yes,
it's Vicki. Can I interrupt?
wherever
Susan,
you
and
are.
actually, that's one of the reasons for the sound system is that currently the way it is, there is no coordinated speaker aspect. So in order to reach the people at the back of the pool, and this has to do with physics and all kinds of crazy stuff and what sound does. In order to reach the people at the back at the pool area at the South Club, the speakers have to be turned way up because a lot of the sound is going out to your place as opposed to directed at the people at the pool. And then the people who are close to the entertainers get blasted with even louder sound. So the system is designed to actually provide a surround sound so that it never has to be so loud that ideally you aren't hearing it at Manchester 2, and yet the people who are actually at the pool will hear it. And there are also other types of entertainment that the South Club is going to be bringing in, such as movies and trivia and things that require different types of things, different sound requirements. But currently there is no sound system at that pool. It is whatever the vendors bring. Some people are solo guitar people who have a cheap $50 speaker. Other people bring $10,000 worth of equipment. It's really very sporadic and depends on who is hired and doesn't provide a steady quality. So that was one of the considerations.
We updated this particular building with an excellent sound system. Why can't you put on these events in here if it's that important?
It's a completely different environment. You're talking about having bands entertain at a pool with a tiki bar type concept, and you may not appreciate that, but there's hundreds and hundreds of people that do. It's apples and oranges.
So why wasn't it put in the budget then prior year before Vicky got on the RFEC board?
Susan, I don't mean to be rude, but your 3 minutes is up. But
got you,
if you want to continue this conversation with Ginger or Vicky after the meeting, I'm quite sure they will be glad to accommodate you.
Okay.
I do know that there is certain services or concerts that are scheduled, and Matt, I may miscall it did Matt leave? You having a reaction to your shot, I was asked. You have a live streaming concert coming to the South Club pool. It's Bon Jovi? No. But this also, any sound system we have is only going to enhance as we do these going forward at the South Club because of having a much more balanced sound system. Am I correct that? And I know you plan on doing movies because we were donated an outside movie screen that you'll be able to do movies at the South Club pool, and having them in a balanced sound system will provide a much greater experience for the person attending. Am I basically correct? Thank you.
You got to spray for bugs for the mosquitoes in the evening? When we're sitting there watching a movie? I just want to know then, since this was not in a budget, what are you taking away out of the budget to cover this cost?
Okay, I know this isn't supposed to be Q&A, this is good and welfare, but I'll sum this up. The South Club pool expansion project has been in the making for close to 3 years. When the planning was done and the original layout was done, there were some anticipated shade structures, poles, benches, etc. When Jack and the board and the committee had all got to the point where they believed in the project, they were ready to go ahead, the sound system was something that was anticipated, but we couldn't finalize that at the time, and they said, we agree this needs to be part of this very expansive program, but we're not going to agree to that at this point until you get further detail. An ad hoc committee was assigned to it. They researched it for many, many months, worked with the vendors, came up with a cost. Jack said, we don't have that. I say Jack, it was the board. We don't have those funds available right now. Is there anywhere within the current budget that was created 2 years ago to fine-tune some of those areas, look for some funding? And the ad hoc committee and the management company sat down and walked through a couple of things, a couple of shade structures that were not for resident usage, they were for the entertainment area, a couple of poles that were going to be relocated for the shade structure. The shade structure is still going to be there, but the pole didn't have to be relocated. A couple of changes like that actually provided enough funding that we were able to get the sound system instead of these things which were deemed to be non-material to the project. That's the short answer.
Thanks for the explanation. That's the very reason I'm saying to come to the RFEC meeting, because what she just said, I heard at that meeting, and then you would know what you're voting for right now. Thank you.
No, Susan was also at the board meeting where it was approved. The same thing was there. No, Susan, I wish you could get the community to attend our meetings. Any other comments, discussion? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. All in favor, say aye. The meeting is adjourned.